I'm real happy to see you.
Hey guys, welcome to Recycled Gaming. My name is Jake, and today I'm going to be looking at Resistance Fall of Man for the PlayStation 3. So Resistance Fall of Man is a first-person shooter, and the game is set in 1951 in an alternate history, where you play as Sergeant Nathan Hale. And as Nathan Hale, you have to combat an invasion from an alien-like species called the Chimera. So the first thing that struck me when playing Resistance Fall of Man was that the heads-up display, which is basically the screen you see as you're playing the game, it would just be like an overlay giving you some extra information like what health you have and what ammo, what gun you're using, how many grenades you've got left, all of that sort of thing is different to other first-person shooter games and even third-person shooter games. And unfortunately this was a change for the worse. Now this is because there is no mini-map. Most games will have a mini-map, or if you press start you'll be able to see a larger map of the level you're at, the mission, and this will just give you some sort of navigational guidance about where the end objective is, or the objective is that you're working towards. In Resistance there is nothing like this. You just have to be left to yourself, so you have to go around and find it for yourself. Now it's fairly easy because the maps are linear, it's not open world, but it does mean that if you're in an area where you can't find the switch to open the door to get into the next area, and you just can't find that for a while, you're going to think, is this the right area? Then you're going back to the other areas, you're walking around the map trying to find somewhere to get through, and you're just wasting time. So unfortunately I thought that was a negative aspect, and it kind of brings down the game. Moreover, I didn't really like the way the health system worked. In Resistance you can see the amount of health you have, which is good, you can see when it's regenerating, but unfortunately, unlike most first person shooters where you regenerate health slowly over time, you can only regenerate part of your health, and the rest of your health has to come from med packs, which are finite in the game and they're only in specific locations, which means that there could be areas where you have none at all, and it means that you can just die and you can't really wait out and regenerate health. So unfortunately that does mean that it's quite a bad aspect of the game. The game's trying to be something different, it's trying to be something that's not been done before in the FPS genre, which is good, but the way they've actually implemented it isn't so good, so it's something they need to work on. And unfortunately the checkpoints aren't that consistent. There aren't that many. It's not like when you complete one objective or complete one area that a checkpoint will come so that when you die you can then respawn there. It could be a couple areas or even halfway through a mission before you actually get your first checkpoint, which means that you could kill loads of enemies, you could do some really hard bits, die, and then you have to then start again, which is kind of annoying. So this and the health system put together means that the gameplay itself is more challenging and isn't really that great for newbies, as it were, for the first person shooter genre. But this isn't to say that the game is actually bad, because I think it's actually very well put together and very well done. The story and the missions are well thought out and well developed. They follow on well from each other, so that means you don't get lost in the story, you don't start losing the plot, you don't start getting confused about what's happening or what's just happened or what's going on. It's very well put together, it flows well, so you know what's happening all of the time. There are also a lot of varied weapons and enemies in the game. There's also a lot of varied locations, which means that you can just mess about with what you're doing. You're not always in the same place. You can cycle through weapons, you can use alien weapons, you can use human weapons, you can fight different types of aliens. They can be large, they can be strong, they can be small, they can be fast. And this means that there's something else for you to accommodate in the game. You have to choose your style of play relevant to the situation you're in. You don't always just have to say, oh, I've got this weapon at the start of the mission and I'm going to use this weapon for the whole mission. It changes, you can choose what you want to do, you can cycle through your weapons, and you don't lose the weapons you have as long as you have ammo for them. Now the final feature that I wanted to talk about relating to the single player are the extras. Now the extras are accessed via the start menu, and they're basically a series of challenges that you can complete while playing through the single player. However, there are no information given about how to complete the challenges. It's just the name, and from that name you can maybe work out some sort of idea, but really they're just accessed and they are achieved as you go through the game by doing certain feats. For example, killing a certain amount of enemies with a certain grenade. For example, I think a penny for your thoughts is completed by killing 3 enemies with a grenade, and then you can get one for killing 3 enemies with a hedgehog and things like that. So What's good about this is that it actually allows you to spend skill points which you get from completing challenges to then unlock new things. For example, at 10 skill points you might get some concept art for the game, which is just some extra hidden things that you get for, you know, doing these extra things in the game. You can get multiplayer skins, you can get movie reels, things like that, which just makes it a bit more interesting, and it's a good added feature to the game. Although there are multiplayer features, unfortunately in April of this year the servers for Resistance 1, Fall of Man, Resistance 2 and Resistance 3 were shut down, so unfortunately multiplayer is no longer an option and is no longer available. In summary then, I still think that Resistance Fall of Man is a very good game. Although there are other features that I don't like, for example there's no guidance, there's no navigation, there's no compass, there's no mini-map to help you on the missions. I don't like the way the health system works, it doesn't regenerate fully, you have to rely on drops in the game, and there's not as many checkpoints as I would like, or the checkpoints aren't in a position that can always be beneficial to you. There are also a lot of good features. The story's great, the plot is good, there's a lot of variation on the amount of weapons, there's, you know, different enemies, you're not fighting the same enemy over and over again, it varies in the game, there are a lot of extras and things to do, so although the game doesn't have achievements, it means that you can then expand on from the 15 to 20 hour playtime for the average player by completing the game over and over. You could complete on the larger difficulties to get the skill points to then unlock the extras like the concept art or the multiplayer skins, which unfortunately you wouldn't be able to show off because the multiplayer servers aren't actually up. So overall it's a good game. Perhaps in hindsight it's not as good as the games that were released later on like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, but at the time this was a great game and it will still be remembered as a good PS3 exclusive. So thank you for watching.